To call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, Monday, February 5th. And at this time, I'd like to do roll call. Commissioner Andrews. Okay. Commissioner Burgess.
Here.
Commissioner Trainer.
Here.
Commissioner Perez. Yeah. And Commissioner Manziel.
Here.
Okay. So at this time, I guess it's our space for public comment. I don't think we have any though, right, Chris?
We have to keep it on the agenda, but
Okay.
no, there's no one here to give comment.
Okay. So, okay, with hearing no comment and having no here, let's go to the communication. When I think that it's going to be a report out, correct? Am I reading it wrong on the agenda?
No, you're reading it correctly. We were going to put the agenda up on the screen, but I think that didn't quite happen. But you're reading it correctly.
I can put it on. I can put it up on the screen, Chris.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that way we can all follow along.
On track. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so there's no resident council or other communications, right?
Correct. We don't have anybody here to give any kind of communications.
Okay, so the senior staff updates. We had kind of asked just to open up dialogue for communication and understand a little bit better. So that's Janina going through the screen, correct?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Smith. So I worked with all of the other department directors to pull together very brief department updates for everyone to just talk about where they are. And so I'll go through the PowerPoint and then folks will just do their department updates. So. All right, can everyone see the slides okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, so this is just kind of a quick overview of the department structure, and we can share this afterwards as well if that would be helpful to commissioners. Essentially just showing kind of the organizational layout. And then the purple is just showing some of the open positions that staff are currently working or have a plan to fill. All right, so the first department, and we're just going in alphabetical order, will be Kristen.
Hi, everyone. So I returned back to work on February 1st. And in terms of the asset management department, I have just 3 topics I wanted to go over really quick. For our capital projects, our team completed about $880,000 in capital work from July 1st of last year until January 31st of this year. We also have currently another $4.8 million in progress or in development. So it's either already, contracted and underway, or we're working on the scopes. And final thing here is that we just, recently received approval from our tax credit investors for all of our 2024 capital projects. And so that will be another about $1.6 million that we will add to our project schedule for the year. So we have quite a bit of work underway. It includes lots of different types of projects, but mainly elevator modernizations. We have quite a few insurance, water, fire damage projects we're working on, fire alarm and fire sprinkler repairs and replacements. We have some ADA and HQS compliance projects that are in the pipeline, as well as other site improvements. In terms of Huntington Park, we're fully staffed there. So we have 9 Gray Star employees that work at the site. Year to date, our NOI is down about 4%, and mostly that's attributable to a few factors. One of them is lower than expected rents. Another is higher than expected move outs. We also had higher than expected vacancies, and we also have higher than expected bad debt. And so the lower expected NOI was partially mitigated by cost reductions in expenses, as well as lowering our asset management fee to EHA. We're working on a bunch of capital projects out there, including fire sprinkler repairs, pipe repairs, water heater replacements, and main entry door replacements. And then final topic for asset management is that we are moving forward with the building electrification grant at Bakerview to replace the water heating system with a heat pump water heating system. We signed the grant agreement with Commerce and secured investor and lender approval. So we will be putting a mechanism in place to legally be able to use the funds at the property. We're in process for hiring a contractor to do that work, including an initial the scope of work for that.
Great, thank you.
Kristen looks frozen on my screen, but I think she was done. So I will go ahead and advance. Oh, Kristen, you had frozen. Were you were done, right?
I was done. Yeah. Did everything come through or?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, and then next, Jason Mora.
Hello, everyone. So I am, with the limited time here today, just going to run through the 4 projects. I would note if at any time the board would like to meet at kind of the finance real estate subcommittee or otherwise to get some more detailed discussion on any of these particular projects, I would be happy to meet anytime requested. So this is going to be pretty quick and short for some things that are a little more lengthy and complicated in scope. But Park District plan development overlay process is coming pretty close to fruition. We are planning on issuing, I think, the final EIS today, working through last minute comments in coordination with the city on that. There's a scheduled February 20th Planning Commission meeting, which will be kind of the full assessment and, in essence, vote for the project. And then the council meetings will ensue in March. There will be at least 3 of them, of which to vote through the various ordinances which are associated with the development overlay. We're also working on the schematic design for what we call phase 2, which will be the initial phase of the Park District. Second project in the Park District following Madrona Square. We're kind of in mid schematic design at this point, working with the partnerships, working with the consultants to try to get a better understanding of the conceptual override design programming, just so that we're ready. Once there's decision made on the plan development overlay, we then can move forward with that with expedited design programming, with the intent that we're ready to start that project in Q1 or Q2 of 2025. Mariner Community Campus, just to remind everyone, or for those who aren't fully acquainted, Mariner Community Campus is a partnership between ourselves and Snow Isle Libraries. We have an MOU with Snow Isle Libraries to move forward with acquisition of properties, and then following successful acquisition of those properties, we'll have a development agreement which will intend to develop affordable housing alongside a new branch library, as well as a wide variety of community amenities. We haven't yet completed that acquisition or that development agreement, but we are in process, and I expect to be coming back to the board pretty quickly with a proposition for that acquisition. Ben Young Senior Living is moving along quite quickly. We're now in the construction document phase of entitlements, which means we're really in the last phase of design programming before we get to the permitting, full permitting issuance phase, and then the start of construction. We expect to be fully permitted kind of early summer. We expect and hope to have the tenant relocated sometime this summer, end of summer. We're in the process of negotiating and working with the tenant at the moment for that relocation. The expectation is that we will start construction next year on Ben Young Senior Living, so we'll be back to the board a little bit later in the year. in regards to that, but just giving you an overall heads up that design's going well, tenant relocation's going well, and our demolition and other planning is in process so that we can expedite perhaps some of the work later on this year. So that's all in fairly good shape. And then on Madrona Square, we're still working with the contractor on a variety of things, as well as our partners and variety of consultants working with us. We're still waiting for some outstanding liens to be resolved. We have to bond around a contractor lien. The contractor has made a claim, which is roughly in the amount of a little over $2 million. We're working with them on that claim. I met with the contractor last week. Our current mode of conduct is to set a mediation date for a couple months away from now, but in the time being, we both agreed to try to resolve this out of a litigative environment. And so we'll be meeting with them on a bi-weekly basis to try to see if we can get to a place that's amenable to both parties and save us both the time and expense of going to litigation. And then otherwise, we're just working through final payment retention and a variety of administrative issues related to the final stabilization of the property and transition into permanent financing, and also release of some of our tranche funds from the investor. That's pretty much my report. Open for any questions, and certainly be willing at a later date to provide more detail on all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Right, and then Kimberly will be giving the finance update.
Hi, everyone. So we are underway on the SAO agency audit. We're still uploading some items to their SharePoint, and we've got a couple of questions that have come through. Also, our tax credit is underway. No questions from the auditors yet. Let me back up a little bit. SAO, we're also, there's the accountability audit portion of it. We haven't started on that yet. That's going to be the last portion of the audit. So we're just focusing on the financial piece right now. Tax credits are underway as well. The nonprofits, we're working on the inside, but nothing working with the auditors yet on that portion of it. And we're also working on the mid-year update on the agency financial status and budget projections. And we are down 3 employees. The senior accountant, we are going to start, we have interviews set up this week for the senior accountant position. The accountant one, I'm working with HR to get that one posted. And we're still working on some changes to the controller position, and hopefully we'll get that one posted pretty soon as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then Kristen again.
Hey, everyone. So Deputy HCV Director Wendy Westby is still out on leave and is scheduled to return March 12th. I have meetings scheduled this week with the interim deputy director, as well as the 4 managers. So I'll have a more information to update the board on next time. But I did want to just update the board on a few different things. We are beginning the process of implementing a different type of a staffing model within the HCV team. We're moving from a caseload-based model to a task-based staffing model. So this is a pretty big initiative, and it will take a while to fully implement, but it involves updated job descriptions for all of the staff that work on tasks related to HCV, as well as the addition of a manager for the inspections program, and the work will be distributed in a different way. So rather than each housing specialist having a caseload of clients where they have to do every different type of action, whether it be, a new admission, an annual review, a move, a port, we'll have teams that are specialized in certain types of actions. And so we will be able to prioritize what needs to get done in a timely manner and have staff that are trained on the more specialized actions that we do as they gain more experience. So what we envision here is that any new staff that are coming from external from the agency will start at CS1, and they will focus on learning and training and customer service. And then as they develop competencies in the different areas, they would move up to different positions where they could do more complex work and handle a higher volume of work. And associated with that, we currently have 4 positions open. 3 of them are currently advertised, and that's for the CS1 positions. We also will be advertising a HCV manager to handle the inspections team. And then we also have a CS2 eligibility. This person is leaving, and so we need to refill that position. So 5 positions altogether. Some other main, priorities that we're working on right now are, again, addressing the inspections backlog, which we are now fully staffed with 3 inspectors and an inspections coordinator. We're making much better progress on getting to all of those biennial inspections and getting caught up. And then our other priority right now is focusing on our utilization, because our utilization has, gone down over time as we worked through a couple of different issues related to MTW implementation and some waivers that we were trying to get, and serving all of the people that are in our PBV program that want to move. So now that we've worked through those issues, we're starting to do waitlist polls and issuing people vouchers and assisting them with moving into new units. And so we expect our utilization to go up over time, but it's definitely something that we need to be, tracking and modeling out to see if we need to adjust, how we're implementing our waitlist polls and the volume that we're doing. So like I said, more to come in the weeks ahead. We have a number of very huge initiatives within the HCV team that are rolling out this year. So we'll be working very closely with policy and innovation on all those areas where we overlap.
Thank you.
And great, Cal?
Yes, thank you, Janina. So I returned to work on January 31st, back from leave. The biggest lift right now in the Housing Management Department is our annual reporting to the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. This is an annual duty. It typically is separated out into multiple months. The first major target is 131. However, due to issues in Yardi, we were able to get an extension from the state until 216. This initial round of reporting is a lot of tenant and vacancy information in addition to income information. We will turn that into the state, and then in June, finance will come behind us and start uploading all of the audited information once it's available, and that due date is 6/30. In addition to the reporting deadline that we have for the state, we also have a lot of properties and sites right now with active insurance claims, primarily related to flooding events, some also related to the freeze event that happened a couple of weeks ago. That is at our Madrona Square property. We also have an issue with flooding at our Lakeview Terrace property, and recently discovered at that property we have an asbestos issue. And we're also still working on rebuilding the fire damaged unit at Douglas Grove. All of this insurance work happens in coordination with housing management, asset management, and the insurance adjusters, and there's ongoing coordination between all of those entities. And last, in our department and the housing management department, we have very low staffing levels. We currently have 10 open positions, either in process or currently will be starting very soon. We are struggling with staff retention at this time, and a primary focus of me and the deputy director in the department will be coming up with a stabilization plan that will include increased staffing and an operations plan.
Thanks,
Linda?
Cal.
Thank you.
Linda?
Can I ask a question? I was like, interrupt. What's the retention issue? Like, is it?
The retention issue has plagued this department for quite some time. I think these are some of the lowest paid positions in the agency, and compared to our competitors, I don't think we've kept up with the market.
Okay.
So I do believe HR will be starting a salary study soon, and we're hopeful that will bring us back up to a competitive place. But it's a hard job. The tenants that we serve in some of these properties can be difficult to manage, and I think people just burn out over time. And so it'll be part of our long-term plan to create a staffing plan that entices people to stay and envision a career here from the entry-level job up into management. So hopefully we can slow down the turnover and start to build efficiencies through retention of the staff.
Thank you.
Linda?
I need my notes. Hold on. I don't have them.
Would you like me to email them to you, Linda?
Yeah, actually, if you could just, if so, you all see the screen, talk to the commissioners now. You all see the screen. So I'm going to go through this because I do have them. I have information on these, but I need my notes. So if you can just stop sharing your screen so I can get to it, that would be great. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. So, oops, sorry. For a snapshot, personnel manual. Kelly and I are working on redesigning and updating the personnel manual. Major had asked us to do this to start the process. So we're using track changes, and when we're done, we will send them off to an attorney for a complete review, just in case we miss some laws and RCWs that we were not familiar with. As far as Ask Me, which is our administrative union, I am prepping for the upcoming negotiations where I will be the lead for EHA. And I have asked Kelly to be at the table with me as well. And then I'll be asking one other person. And I'm not quite sure who that person will be. I do have someone in mind, but I have not reached out to them, so I won't be dropping any names at this time. Then we have a salary study that is up and coming. We were to have all the job descriptions updated, and they were supposed to be turned into HR. The directors should have had their information to HR by the 31st of December. This was something that Major had pushed. He also had wanted the rest of the agency to have their job descriptions updated by February 29th. This was going to be in preparation for the salary study. I'm supposed to meet with CBiz on Wednesday of this week at 2:30. But I'm thinking, because this has not been done, that we should actually put this on hold, because this is a critical piece of them doing the salary study, is to be able to know and have accurate job descriptions. And just sending off the stuff that's been since 2015, 16, 17, 18 is not going to give us an accurate picture of the work that is being done. So I'll leave that up to the board to make that decision. The cost is supposed to not exceed $39,500. I know that's high, but that's where we're at. So as far as the recruitment, this data is from September 2023 through January 2024. Our head count is at 124. We've hired 14. We've termed 12. 6 were voluntary. We had a retirement, and we had 5 separations. We terminated them. And the departments who lost the folks were in maintenance, Thrive, HCV, and finance. And as far as our benefits, our healthcare benefits are up by 7%. So that means an increase to the agency and to our employees. The health savings account, our HSA plan went up. And then EHA's contribution to the employees account will go down because of this, but it is still an extremely generous contribution to our plan. And we've just decided to remain with Cigna for our dental. And I also have notified the union as per contract. I did that last Friday morning.
Thank you.
Questions, comments, concerns?
All
I
right.
have a question and concern.
Yes, ma'am.
I think just listening to the number of vacancies that we have, the number of positions that need to be filled, I think it's really important to take take that salary study into like urgent consideration. I don't think we're going to be able to hire, or at least it looks like we're not able to hire folks at the rate that we are already paying people. So we really need to take a look at that and get that salary study done so that we can make some increases and get these positions filled. I'm very concerned about the number of positions that are open right now. And so I'm just saying,
The job descriptions, then we just need to have priority on.
And I agree with you, Commissioner Andrews and Commissioner Smith, but we have to have current and updated job descriptions. To submit the stuff that we have now is not going to produce any new numbers. We can just stay where we are if that's the case and just go from there. So that was the push. Again, that was the push that Major had expected us to have due by December 31st. I know HR's is done because we stayed, we did the work. So I don't know where the rest of the departments are. I haven't seen anything, and I know they need to come through HR. So
I again, that needs to be a priority. The job descriptions need to be done. In my opinion, my humble opinion, but I think that I don't know what our role is in that, but it needs to happen, and I think everyone needs to make that a priority.
Linda, what was the deadline for the, other than the director job descriptions, what was the deadline for the rest of the job descriptions to get HR?
the end of this month.
Okay, so we still have a couple of weeks for like the vast, like 120 of those job descriptions are still not past the deadline.
But then you all have to remember, by you doing this, that means HR is doing the extra lift, because now we have to go through them and have them ready by said time. I can talk to, because I said again, I'm having this appointment with the CBIZ. I'm having it this week. And I can see how long we can put this off, but you have to, and I understand why the timelines were there, so they can be a separation of breathing, we'll say. But to throw them all at HR when there's only 2 of us that's going to review them, that's just wrong.
So are you proposing to change the deadline from what you had originally set of February 29th to a different deadline?
I'm going to talk to CBIZ, and that's what we're going to have to do. I don't know what it's going to be like, but there is no way that 2 of us are going to be able to complete 120, because we may have to send them back for more feedback, for review, etc. That's not going to happen by February 29th. So yeah, we're going to have to change the date. I will be talking to them again and see what's the latest that we can kick this out. But I'm going to need y'all to do your part, for real.
Yeah, well, sorry, Jason, were you gonna say something?
I guess my only thought on this, guys, is can we add it to the agenda for Wednesday senior staff meeting so that we can just come up with a timeline and based on Linda's meeting with CBIZ back into the date and then share that information with our staff?
Sounds good to me.
Good suggestion.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again, and I will do my department update. Not on my slide, but I am happy to say, I think my department's job descriptions are pretty much up to date, so I'll be able to get those to HR, very quickly. So we have a few different things that Policy and Innovation is working on right now. Probably our biggest push is getting the annual plan and MTW supplement finished. The public comment period is going to start this Thursday. Before we go out to public comment, we have to consult with our resident advisory board. I'm really excited that we had record attendance at this year's resident advisory board meeting. In the past years, we've really struggled to get folks to participate. We offered both an in-person and a virtual option, and I think we had probably 15 participants in the in-person, and then probably another 15 or 20 on the Zoom as well. We had some really good participation, lots of good feedback from residents about, some of the things that they would like to see in terms of, communication and customer service from the Housing Authority. And so Myself, Jason Morrow, and Chris were all at that meeting, as well as Anna Todd from the voucher department, and then Heather from my department. From the board's perspective, we will be doing the public hearing, and then the board will adopt the final annual plan and MTW supplement at the March 25th meeting. And then there's some certifications that the board and the executive director need to sign before we submit everything to HUD. And the deadline to submit is April 15th. And then that will be for the plan year that starts July 1st. In terms of other activities going on in our department, we are also deep underway and actually nearly complete with the rent study enrollment. So as you may recall, when we were accepted to the MTW demonstration, we were accepted as part of a cohort that's studying tiered rents, which is an alternative rent policy for employment focused, so non-elderly, non-disabled households. And so we started a year-long enrollment process in May of 2023. Actually, we started for folks who had an annual in May, so we were really starting like January of last year. We're almost complete with all of our existing household enrollments. New admissions will continue through the end of April. And then finally, in terms of kind of other sort of external communications work that our agency is doing, we went through an RFP process last year to select a consultant to help us update the agency website. It had been several years since we had done this, and there was a lot of functionality that our current website platform doesn't offer, particularly in terms of kind of the resident and participant facing work, calendars of events, some of those kinds of things that, you know, we had identified better information, you know, about our programs, particularly around the voucher program and things like, you know, housing search assistance, mobility, you know, looking for units, that kind of a thing, that our current website platform is really challenging, you know, to add that functionality. And so the hope is that we'll be signing that contract soon, and then we will get that underway, and definitely should be done before the end of the year, hopefully maybe even by this summer. So that's my department update. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then last, but certainly not least, Donnell is here from Resident Services to give her update.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to stick to mostly pretty high level overview, but right now we are in the process of closing out our calendar year 2023, sorry, close out our 2023 Family Self-Sufficiency Grant. We have to have that completed by April. We are working with a new accounting staff this year because there's been some turnover that are learning this process. And so we're trying to work together on making sure we make this happen in a timely manner. Thankfully, this is not a complicated grant, so that helps quite a bit. And then the current grant year, the calendar year 2024, is already underway because we had the opportunity at our last application to apply for 2 grant cycles. So thankfully, that'll be a little bit easier with new accounting staff trying to learn how to help us manage this particular grant. The Family Self-Sufficiency Grant, not only, it covers the salary and benefits of our Family Self-Sufficiency Program Coordinator, but within the FSS world, we're also tracking participant escrow accounts, and that gets a little bit complicated sometimes in terms of Yardi issues that we have and with accuracy and having to manually manage and cross-reference. So it is something that we have to all learn together again as staff has turned over. And then as a team, we are in the process of evaluating our 2023 Health and Wellbeing Monitor Survey that we did in collaboration with the Providence Institute for Healthier Communities. This was the second one we did. Our first one was completed in 2019. And then we did a second one to, again, cross-reference with what we learned the first time. So we had 367 responses from residents over about 18 different properties. So we received some really good information, but it is a lot of information. So we're now going through the formal report that was presented to us at the end of 2023 by Providence. And our team is working to pull that apart and look at what types of programming and services we should continue to focus on and or new things we should be implementing based on the residents' needs and desires. We are also in process of creating some fantastic partnerships with the YMCA, the Shack Art Center, End of Life Washington, the Recovery Cafe, and the Washington State University SNAP-Ed Food Program. These are just a few, but these are the bigger ones that will be very intentional in the way that we bring resources and services to our residents in various properties. The YMCA and Shack Art Center specifically would be placed at Madrona Square, where we have a really significant need in helping our residents succeed in housing. So these are really important partnerships to help provide some of that prevention so we can avoid some of this crisis that we've been experiencing. We're also in process of forming a best practice approach for recording the resident services activities and events that we provide on a daily basis and all year long through our Family Metrics Database Center, our database program. That it is a program that's specifically designed for resident service coordination across the country. Many housing authorities and multifamily properties use this, and we've been using it for 3 years now. We implemented it right at the start of COVID, thank goodness, because it saved us in terms of working at home and documenting our services. But we've learned along the way that it's such a powerful and large program that we need to now focus in and find those consistent practices across all of our staff, so that when we're reporting, because we're also involved in the reporting work group, that we want to make sure that we have some consistent practices around reporting for the board and our agency. So you all know the work that we're doing within our department too. It's always been our challenge because most of our work is qualitative versus quantitative and very anecdotal. We can tell you a lot of wonderful stories about the successes of our residents and how that came to fruition from A to Z, but we also know that the numbers are important. So those are some of the large items we're working on right now and through the rest of this year. My direct colleague, Shannon Atkins, is still on leave. She's the Aging and Disabilities Program Manager and is expected to be back here in mid-February. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was the last report, correct?
Yeah, and then and this is sort of teeing up the discussion that's on the agenda for a little bit later on in the meeting. I think it's under the policy discussion item, Chris, and I'll go back to the agenda shortly. I think we have some consent agenda items in between. But we did want to obviously, talk to the board to get an understanding of what the board is looking for in terms of department updates. And then another item that the senior staff has identified, to discuss with the board is around the compensation committee. So that committee is how we determine salary offers for represented positions. And the executive director typically does have some involvement in that process, depending on the makeup of the committee and if there's any conflicts, among the directors. And, as other staff mentioned earlier, because we do have a number of positions to fill, that will become relevant. And so we wanted to have a discussion about kind of the best way to move forward with that process. So.
Great. Well, I really want to thank all who provided reports to the board. I appreciate it. I know the board appreciates it, so thank you. So next we have a approval of minutes from many meetings. It says November 13th, the 28th, the 11th, the 15th, the 28th, 9th, and the 19th. And I'm hoping everyone had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes. And Chris, is it appropriate for someone to make a motion to do the approval process all at once?
I suppose we could do it that way. If nobody has any issue with any of the minutes, you could certainly agree to call for a single motion for the whole group.
So can I technically just ask if there's any issues before we do
Yeah, I
that?
think first you want to ask if anyone has any issues with
Okay.
anything in any of the minutes.
Okay, does anyone have any issues on any of the minutes for the meetings that I just mentioned?
No, none from me.
None here.
Okay,
None here.
okay. So hearing none, do I have, I am suggesting that we approve it all as one fellow.
I will make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, I have a second. And all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
any opposed? Okay. Well, then the meetings are approved.
Chris, thank you for working on all those. I
Thank
know that
you.
was
Yeah.
quite a bit to put together.
Yeah, especially when I wasn't here, but I had good
Yeah.
recordings and
You did
information.
well. You
Yeah,
did
Good
you
well.
job.
did really well.
Thank you. So we have nothing on our consent agenda and no items for individual consideration. So it leads us to, looks like our last topic, the policy discussion. And Chris, you summarized it really good, developing processes to enhance communication between senior staff and board commissioners. So I just have like a couple points just to kind of introduce the why behind it. Okay, sorry. The board is just hoping to work on a plan that enhances the communication between the board and the agency staff, and kind of have some suggestions of a list to work on. Number one is assessing like how we're currently communicating and see where we might have areas for improvement. And then to define a specific communication goal. And then to look at the audiences that we're communicating with, like if it's the board communicating to senior staff, or if it's the senior staff communicating to the board, it's going to look a little different. So kind of come up with the audience preferences. And we can do that simply through assessing what senior staff need and what the board needs. And then the channel and cadence of communication. So, I mean, I could throw out very easily, you know, is it a staff email? Like I have a tendency to go and do all staff email or a senior staff email. It's just depending on the preferences of everyone. So we're hoping to have the outcome of, you know, we can identify challenges quicker through an assessment and then establish a communication protocol. And it can also be used as a feedback mechanism to really help grow some healthy dialogue. So does anybody have any questions? Because we need to start doing the work. Kind of open it up for any thoughts or questions.
Yeah, Corn, I have some thoughts. One of the things about building more communication and better communication internally at the Housing Authority and with the commissioners, I'd really recommend that we start looking and pushing to get back to work in person. COVID-19 is, you know, 4 years ago, we shut the doors there at the Housing Authority, working remotely. We are one of the only housing authorities that still isn't completely open. And we definitely serve folks within the community who don't have the means or oftentimes the assistance and the wherewithal to, you know, use technology, and we do need to be open for the public.
You identified a group that I didn't think about, and that's on me. Communication to the community we serve, the clients. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Are there any other, like from staff members, any wants or needs that you're seeing?
So Commissioner Burgess, just a quick question. So you brought that up. Very good. Thank you. What do you have a date?
No, it's just something that we need to start considering and having a conversation around. I know May 1st has been thrown out in a few areas. Just want to start the dialogue and what that looks like and the comfort level. But in terms of building communication within and for us, it would definitely help if people were together and being able to
Major
have in-person meetings.
And Major had also began that process talking about it anyway, because he
Yeah.
said that public facing folks, he wanted them back in the office. He wasn't going to try and dictate, sorry for that word, but I can't think of anything else right now, as to what the days look like or anything. But he was
Absolutely.
definitely moving towards having folks come back in.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember some of those conversations. Thank you, Linda.
I'm happy to speak to that as well, since my department includes the kind of client-facing staff as well as some of the customer service staff. So, on that note, we had begun planning toward, what a reopening of the office would look like. And Kristen earlier talked about kind of rethinking the customer service functions and the voucher team. And that's kind of a key piece of this as well, because right now, the same staff that do the processing work behind the scenes to figure out what someone's rent is, which is a very, kind of technical computer focused process, are also the same ones that are answering, phone, email, in-person meetings with clients. And often it can be very challenging to jump between those things. And so, as Kristen mentioned, part of the reimagining the work that the voucher team at least does involve sort of separating out those functions so that we do have dedicated staff that can focus on the customer service work and can be that face for clients, whether they're meeting in person or on the phone or via email. And so, a lot of these initiatives that we're undertaking kind of at work are done, with sort of these larger ideas in mind of how we can, better serve our clients and the public. And Chris and I, Chris obviously supervises the staff who support the front desk, the reception staff, and who also do kind of office support functions. And so we've had a lot of conversations about what that looks like and, how we can reopen to the public. We've talked to some of the other housing authorities in the area. So I know Hasco is open to the public, for very limited hours and days. And so, looking at how we can kind of mirror, what's happening with other community service agencies in the community. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, Commissioner Burgess, because it's definitely, top of mind for my team for the agency.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what did it look like before COVID, and what were some of the pitfalls and the problems before COVID?
I'm gonna, Chris.
Yes, you want to defer to me? Sure, I can address that. So before COVID, we were open Monday through Thursday from, I think in the morning it was from 9 to 11, and the afternoon it was from 1 to 4. Fridays we were closed for an administrative day. It looks great if you have support staff besides, whoever's sitting at the front desk and myself, who are able to answer people's questions, because we don't work in the voucher department, and the best we can do is to, try to look people up and help them out. The fact of the matter is, many people just come to the housing authority expecting their issue to be solved then and there. And
Sure.
I really don't want to serve the function of, I don't have the time to serve the function as housing authority concierge or bouncer or whatever you want to talk. There's just an empty office. There's got to be people that I can go to and say, hey, so-and-so has an issue, and how can we deal with this? Because, that's really the issue. I think.
Hey, Chris, if I may, so before COVID, were those people in the office who would assist with that?
Generally speaking, we did have, the voucher department staff hadn't started working remotely yet, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but so I guess I'm sorry, I got off track. I'm just speaking, you know, if we don't have people in the office except for the front desk staff, it makes it very difficult just to open up the doors and say, come on in, what's your issue?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a huge issue. So yeah, that's where the question before COVID, before people were working remotely, what that looked like. And it sounds like there was more people there in the office to assist with folks coming in, asking questions and with their concerns as well. So
I also was hoping I could chime in if possible.
Please.
And I have my video turned off because I'm getting messages that my bandwidth is a problem. So sorry about that. Just a few other things to comment on. One is that during the pandemic, we did some hiring where, because we were in a remote model, we have certain staff in the HCB team that don't live very close to the office, like in Vancouver and Puyallup and other places. And so one of the reasons that we want to convert to this task-based model is to have the new staff that are coming in that are performing that customer service function. Part of their job description and what they're being hired for is to staff the in-person customer service of the agency when it comes to HCB, work. And so we need time to be able to hire those staff, onboard them, train them to be able to do customer service. And they'll be coming in with the expectation that they aren't going to be fully remote the way that a lot of our staff that were hired during the pandemic were under the impression that that would be, what their permanent job would be. And so they agreed to work here, even though they don't live close enough to the office to come in. And so that would be one thing. I think also because we're understaffed, we would like to have the flexibility of establishing when we reopen the office as a group and establish a work group where for any team that will be affected by an office reopening, we need to work together to come up with like a realistic plan. Rather than setting the date and trying to back into it. I think it's just a larger discussion because HCV clients are only some of the clients that come into the front door. There's also people that come in that the finance team needs to meet with. There are people that HR needs to meet with. There are people that, aren't on any of our programs and they just need to know about like resources in the community. And so it's really a larger issue that we have to have a cross-departmental staff planning group to go through, kind of what all we need to put in place to make sure we're fully staffed up to address, the volume of people that might be coming in. There's also security issues around our office and different things like that we have to work through. So.
And I appreciate, sorry, I just want to chime in. I appreciate Kristen bringing that up because there are security issues that didn't used to exist. And I also would like to say that, if we're going to just open up the doors, we're going to have people with I've encountered some folks who, and I understand they're very unhappy, they have an issue that they feel like, they want a face-to-face meeting. And, I'm not equipped to just handle that on my own.
absolutely. You're absolutely right.
So
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
right now is being placed on these discussions. Like, how can we get this on the table to be discussed as a priority?
Does that take a motion from the board? Because this is vital and I think there should be a deadline because otherwise we can talk about this for the whole rest of the year and not have a plan. And I think that we have to have some guarantees. It's been too long, and being a community member and hearing and being on this board, it's disheartening that we're not at this place yet. So I think that we should, if we need a motion, I'm open to making one to get it on the table and create a work group so that we can move towards a May 1st opening.
So to be fair, here's a thought. This was just mentioned in this meeting. I know it's been of discussion prior, but let's give the senior staff an opportunity to maybe by the next meeting kind of update us on like some plans that they've started to address this and give us an update then. Does anybody have a problem with that? You can tell me. I have
No,
big
I'm with
show.
you. No,
No
no,
problem.
I think
I
that's
don't
fair.
have a problem with it. I would just like to see some, besides just having conversation, I'd like to see like a work plan put in place. So I'm open to that.
Chair Smith, I wanted to ask Kristen a question. Just for information's sake, you mentioned all the folks that were hired remotely and they live in different places and stuff. Like, how many folks would you say that is, just for curiosity's sake?
Well, I think there's several staff that live sort of a prohibitive amount of, time from the office. I think most staff live, in the Everett and surrounding area.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a minority of percent of the staff of HC.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
So Commissioner Trainer, I can tell you that one of those staffs who lives in Vancouver is resigning. We're getting ready to do her exit interview. And then the others are not further than Tacoma. I can answer that question.
No, I was just wondering if it was like 40 people. Like, I mean, I was just kind of curious, like how many people we're talking about.
You're talking maybe 3 at the max.
And when those jobs were posted and those people applied, were they under the assumption that they would be remote forever?
So Commissioner Burgess, forever? What does that word mean? Forever.
Well,
There is no forever. There is no forever.
Well, no, when the job's posted and they apply for the job, it says whether it's remote, and it will be remote, or if it'll be hybrid or in person, right? So if they were hired assuming that it would be remote,
They were hired knowing that they had to come into the office at least once a month.
Okay.
For a meeting. So remote, yes.
Okay.
Never coming in, no.
Okay, thank you.
I think this reiterates the necessity of the senior staff to get together and get those job descriptions out so we can try to fill some of these vacancies. So that would be really awesome.
Okay, so I guess to kind of summarize that whole discussion, can I ask that the senior staff, I know you guys meet weekly, maybe this can be a topic and some sort of plan devised that you can share at the next meeting. That would be great. And again, any comments on that statement as a wrap-up?
Chair,
Go ahead.
Chair Smith, would that be our February 26th meeting? Is that the date? I would like for you to clarify the date so that everyone knows when this is due.
Chris, can you help us out on the dates on the meetings? Because you're like,
Well, the next regular meeting is February 26th, and then the one after that would be the first Monday in March, which I'd need to look at a calendar. I think that's what Jason, do you have a calendar on?
Yeah. March 4th.
March 4th.
okay. So yes, February 26th, that is the next meeting. That we would hope the plan would be.
2 weeks back. Yeah.
I don't know if everybody heard me say that. Was I too quiet?
Maybe say it again, a little louder.
Sorry. So I'm hoping that the senior staff could please meet and come up with a plan by our next meeting, February 26th. Okay. All right, any more questions, comments, or concerns, or I think we've accomplished.
I don't have any questions, Chair Smith, but I would just like to make a comment. With all the stuff that has been going on and all the troubles we've been going through and all this, the whole gamut of the situation, I would like to personally thank people who are working for being there doing what you needs to be done to help the people that we are trusted to do for. I think they're your troopers, and I thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Perez. I will stand up and say thank you. Thank you, because it has not been easy.
Absolutely.
It has not been easy. It has been a trial. So thank you for recognizing the ones that stayed. I appreciate you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, with that said, we're at the close of our meeting, so I just need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, and I thank everybody for their time today.
Have a good day, everybody from sunny Arizona.
Oh, must be nice.
That's why you're smiling so much, George.
Bye.
Thank you.